Okie dokie. Well, thank you everybody for hopping on. I know that there have been some kind of crazy events that have occurred over the last 6 weeks or so, and I do sincerely apologize for all of the changes and things that are going on along those lines. There have been questions as to why was camp canceled and everything along those lines. There were a whole host of reasons. The first was that there was always going to be a staffing issue that we were trying to overcome throughout the entire process. The second part that we were facing was just sheer transportation issues. I don't know if you saw over the weekend. I mean, there were flights, hundreds of flights being canceled. I know of a person, a close friend of mine that was stranded in Dallas for, I think, like 2 or 3 days. The concept, and this had occurred back in May as well. And as I was planning this through, as a father, I'm thinking this through, and I'm going, all right, if I lived in Seattle, I was trying to get my kid to somewhere in Tennessee, that kid's probably gonna have to go from Seattle to Atlanta, over to Tennessee, and up to Tennessee. The second one would be if it's a smaller place, say it's somewhere in Iowa, knowing that we were using Delta, they'd probably go to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then, or Detroit, and then over there. Here's the problem. If you have a plane that's canceled and they're waiting there for 2 or 3 days in an airport that's far away from home, that is the absolute worst case scenario for a parent. It's a worst case scenario for us. So there were a whole host of things that were going along there. And as I was moving through this process, when we were creating the national conference, we were fortunate to secure a place that had this huge arcade area, basically. And it can hold, I think our events manager said, somewhere between 200 and 300 people, which is significantly larger than what we've got, what we normally would have. And it's certainly larger than what we would need for the youth camp. So we were able to be in a position where we were going to host a youth zone anyway, because what my objective is to develop a program that is not just in the summer, that we focus on camp, and then maybe we have some little thing over at national conference, and then we come back again in the summer and we do it all over again. I think there needs to be more frequent engagement. There needs to be a way that we can be there to support the kids, much more so than just in a camp setting. So camp is going to be August 10th through the 13th at the JW Marriott in Palm Desert, California. I've been out to that part of the country on numerous occasions. My grandmother lived out there. My grandparents lived out there, I guess. And so I will tell you, it's going to be hot. It's going to be dry, but it'll be less miserable than dealing with the humidity that you might have to deal with in the Southeast. Again, the other side of my family is from Mississippi, so I can kind of balance the two. So it will be warm, it will be, but it won't be terribly over, it won't be so hot that it's unbearable to deal with. That being said, we still need to balance the fact that we've got kids that are coming in from all over the country. When I went to basic training, they had a simple rule. Knowing that somebody could be from Alaska and we were going to San Antonio, that you needed to adapt people and let them acclimate to the area. We won't have outside activities sponsored by camp. However, because the parents are there and the guardians are there, we'll be able to, the kids aren't grounded. I want to put that out there first and foremost, that they're able to go outside. They're able to participate in the various activities that are outside. We would just ask that they do it with the parents, and so we can avoid some heat-related issues that may come up. And so with that being said, I kind of want to go through some of the questions that we've gotten over the last, 2 or 3 weeks. The first is, if you previously registered for camp, do you need to re-enroll? No, you don't need to re-enroll. We don't, in fact, I don't even think that opportunity even exists anymore in the sense of how it was done, originally being done. If you contact camp at amputee-coalition.org, as some of you have, it will essentially confirm it. And Amanda Woodson is on the call. She's going to be our point of contact for the camp. And she will be reaching out to you individually as those questions come in. I've given her there was this Colin was gracious enough to compile everything in a spreadsheet, so we're able to respond to you and to those questions that have been sitting there for about a week to 10 days. But you don't need to re-register for camp. Just let us know who's attending and whether or not you are attending. Also, please include the parent or the guardian's information as it exists on the driver's license. And the reason for this is that you need to have that match. The airline ticket needs to match the driver's license, or else TSA is going to have a nutty over the whole thing. And so we need to make sure that that we can get the parents and the kids there at this point. So that's that question. I'm just kind of going through some of the common ones right now. If you had not previously registered for camp, how do you register? I know we've gotten some of those questions. There were conflicting schedules for July, so now that it's in August, perhaps it's available. Again, contact camp at amputee-coalition to indicate your interest. And in the same way, please provide the camper or campers' names and the parent or a guardian that's accompanying the camper. Okay. So what will the coalition pay for? We're going to purchase the round trip airfare tickets for the campers, and one parent or guardian. All right. And if you elect to have a guardian come, we'll have you sign an affidavit saying that it's okay for this, person to be looking over the child or the campers as they are there. They're going to purchase we'll pay for the hotel accommodations, food for the campers, the conference costs for the parents for the parents and the camper, and also ground transportation from Palm Springs Airport to the facility. I just confirmed that with our communications director today, just to make sure that we were all squared away on that. So we're working on that issue right now. Okay, so how is this going to be different than a normal camp? Obviously, a normal camp is much more centered on outside activities. And so you'll be trading the outdoors for the indoors at a Marriott resort. I mean, that's kind of the obvious aspect of it. We will have a dedicated space for youth for youth to have their camp, and we will have staff that will have special lanyards. One of the big concerns I have throughout this whole, and this was occurring even with the national conference planning, was to make sure that we didn't have people that were in that zone or in that area where the kids were that didn't belong there. I want to make sure that the folks that are there are properly cleared, that they're either a Marriott employee or they're one of our employees. And so we are going to create these lanyards. So it not only will it provide some security for the kids, it'll provide security for the parents, and it will also provide an opportunity for the kids to identify who to ask for questions and things along those lines. And that way everybody is aware of who to speak with during the event. We will also have a running clinic by a Paralympic athlete. We just secured this today. This person is working through the Hanger Clinic, and I actually have his information up right now. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the person. His name is Ezra Frech. Our current CEO, John Register, actually knows him, and so he's spoken highly of him when he and I were speaking the other day. And we will you get some you get some training from an Olympic athlete. I mean that's certainly something that I'd never even considered before. Also, we'll have a range of opportunities for the campers to engage in, to serve as mentors and advocates. We'll create a youth passport program where they kind of get a stamp for, they attended, say we have like a youth bowling event or something along those lines, they can get a stamp for that. But we're also going to have things like the youth certified peer visitor program, where if they want to become mentors down the road for other kids, living with the limb loss or living within the limb loss and limb difference community, they can become a certified peer visitor. Also, we are exploring a youth advocacy program. And the first thing we need to do is understand what issues or what concerns that they face within the community that aren't necessarily being addressed properly. And then to give them a certain level of skill set to be able to advocate for themselves, or for the community at large. These are things that we're building right now as a presentation. Again, this will be kind of part of that youth advocacy program. Let's see, we have one more set here. So here were some of the biggest frequently asked questions, and some of the answers were placed up on the Facebook page from my understanding. What will the programming look like? It'll be a combination of learning and activity. We have hired a camp director who has experience working with children and working within the disability community. So I think that this is a perfect marriage to have him use his skill set and to really get the most out of this activity or this opportunity. Will there be fun outdoor activities for the kids to engage in? Yes, there are, but we just ask that the parents or the guardians take the kids out if they want to go out to the pool or anything along those lines. Again, going back to the example that I provided, where you need to accommodate for kids that are coming from colder climates into the desert. It is a challenge at times for kids to do, and so I would just be cautious of them and make sure that they're drinking plenty of water. I'm not really in a position to say this. Maybe you might want to as the parent. When I deployed to Saudi Arabia in August of '99, and they told us to drink 8 bottles of water a day for the first 2 weeks just to get our bodies ready for it. So if you want to do that a week leading into it to just kind of get your body prepared for it, it would probably make things a little bit easier for everybody on the back end. Just so you're not overwhelmed with the heat or the lack of humidity. Do we have to re-register for camp? We already went over that one. How do we notify you if you'd like to come or no longer make it? Again, it's through the camp@amputeecoalition.org. Counselors will be participating. We encourage everybody who wanted to attend before as a counselor to continue to come. If there were some that couldn't go before but can go now, again, we welcome you to come. Same with leaders in training. That I don't care if we have a 2-to-1 student to teacher ratio or anything along those lines. Looking at it from a counselor and especially an LIT perspective, with 2 years of having a virtual environment, it doesn't allow you to develop those leadership skills in the same way as if it's in person. And so having this in even a more closed setting probably will enhance the abilities of those leaders in training to focus directly with the kids, as opposed to just waiting back another year and then getting put back into it the following year. Are parents required to be there? A child must have a parent or a guardian. We can't, we're trying to avoid having kids stuck somewhere in the country without a parent. That was, like I said, that was a huge concern that I had as we were moving forward back in May. If a parent can't attend, if you sign the affidavit that we'll provide you, we can, I certainly understand if an aunt or uncle or family friend or somebody who you've assigned as being the guardian for the week, that works for us as well. I have Dr. Straughter is our HR person online, or I mean our HR person for the organization, and she's on the call. I had her here for several reasons. One, to make sure that I don't do anything dumb, because HR keeps you in line. The second thing is that she has worked closely with the camp director. The third thing is that she's certainly much more familiar with these documents. And so I don't know if Dr. Straughter, if you want to kind of chime in on any questions or concerns or anything that I missed up to now.
No, I think you covered it all. I think what's important is for the parent to identify, who's going to attend with their child. We highly recommend that for a number of reasons. Again, your child is in another state, and then it's hot. We are going to try to, I'm working closely with the camp director. He doesn't start until next month. But I am working closely with him to structure the activities where we can minimize as much risk as possible. And so, but they will be various fun activities, learning activities, educational activities, somewhat of some sport activities like bowling. Zach and I talked about that. But so it is also important to make sure that we have those waivers completed. We want to make sure everyone is safe. And so while we can't disclose, parents can disclose the child's medical history, you do know their history. And so we want to make sure that you have that waiver completed and please submit it to Zach and his team in regard to making sure your child is safe during the time they're here at the camp. Again, we're planning the camp for the kids to keep them safe, but also to have fun and to learn. And so we are pretty excited for those 4 days. I can tell you honestly, we are trying to make sure it's fun stuff and special guests coming and lots of fun giveaways. So, and I won't tell them all, but we are working on that to make sure your child is having fun.
And Dr. Strotter, real quick, if someone cannot attend and they have to have a guardian, what age does that guardian have to be for their attendance?
Yeah, thank you, Colin. That's important too. Let's just make sure, I would say 30 and over, just to be on the safe side. But obviously, if it's a 25-year-old, that's fine too. We don't want, a teenager then having a 20-year-old, kind of overseeing that person. So it just makes the liability on the organization and the family a higher risk. So if you can possibly just make sure it's just an adult that can protect your child while they're at the camp. Now, let me just step back a little bit. The parent or the guardian does not have to attend the camp itself. We just need to make sure they're on the premises or in the surrounding areas with the child from the, when it's time to go to bed, all those things. The child will should be able to get to the camp location because the pavilion is like walking minutes from the hotel. I actually been in that hotel several times years back. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful resort in all aspects. So I think it's a much better location. But again, let's just make sure that the parents consider who's attending with their child. So thank you, Colin.
And it seems that we have another question from Shelley York about the COVID policy for the campers that are going to be there. Is there specific testing that's required? What policy are we going to be enacting for campers?
Good question. So I have to go over that with Zach because I do have the policy that we have for amputee coalition. And so I have to just pull that out and see how we can adjust it for the camp. So we haven't made it that far, but that is on the list to making sure we have, COVID protocols in place, waivers in place, and guardians in place. So we are going to make sure we have something in place. And the parents will get a copy of all that information as well.
And there was another question about arranging flights, which I think we already talked about in regards to just notifying the camp email, which we can put in the chat again.
Yeah.
I put in the link to the website or to the hotel, just so for those that aren't familiar with the hotel that they can look it over. Also, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention a couple of things. Some of the other ones was is there going to be a prosthetist there? Yes, we will actually have at least 3 prosthetists there from Hanger Clinic. And so I was just speaking with them earlier today. So the guy said that's great. He has no problems helping out if something needs to be examined. Then we will also, I said, we'll provide transportation. And so that was the other one. I apologize. I didn't want to shortchange anything. Okay, that's all I have, Colin. So if you have any other questions there that people have asked.
If anybody else has any additional questions, please feel free to raise your hand in the function or type it in the chat, and we'll gladly answer with the time that we have left. It says, so we have another one from Ella. Will counselors be staying in their own hotel rooms?
Yes, we're not gonna have, I mean, the children will, or the campers will stay with the parents, and the LITs and counselors will have their own rooms, yes.
And so will each counselor have their own room, or will they be rooming together?
That's something I think, let me check with Jerica on how she's handling that, because she's got the, she's kind of got like the master list of all of this right now, and I
Yeah, Jerica's handling the hotel stuff.
Okay. And it looks like there was just another question about rooms, and the children will be rooming with their parents. That's correct.
Yes.
Looks like Janice is raising her hand. Janice, you can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question. We're coming from Maryland out to California, and is it one parent only? Because I'm not going to travel that far all by myself.
I mean, two parents are allowed to attend. We're not going to, we're purchasing the airfare for one parent. That's what I was saying. So if you,
I gotcha. Okay.
What are you going to be flying out of BWI or?
That's what I would expect to fly. Yeah, fly out.
Yeah, it's. I think I know I'm flying out of BWI, and I believe Amanda will be as well. So we're all kind of in the same boat and making a long trip. Also, for any of you that have never flown to Southern California, I'm going to give you a heads up. And I just came back from San Diego last week, and every time I forget about it, and I just about pull my hair out. When you fly in and out of Southern California, that air is very dry. Dry air and flights make for bumps, a lot of bumps, and it feels like you'll drop 20 or 30 feet in the air like that. I just want you to be aware of it, so you're not overly concerned. Everybody goes through it, and I'm not trying to scare anybody away, but I also didn't want to not let you know either at the same time. So, but just so you're aware, you won't be alone. You can complain with me about it, because I complain about it all the time, so that's fine.
And it looks like we have another question about airfare. So if both parents want to come and we're paying for one, will we help coordinate the other flights, or is that something they're gonna have to do on their own for the second parent?
Are you saying just to make sure that they're on the same flight, or
Yep, just to make sure they're on the same flight, correct?
I think when we do it, maybe at that point, Amanda, you can give that person a phone call and say, look, we're looking at this flight. How about if you just hop on it and you get this as well? That might be the best way of going about doing that. I don't know, Dr. Strader, if you have another suggestion, but I think that might be the best way.
Yeah, that's the best way. And I can go over with you and Amanda to make sure it's real smooth, because that's going to be very tricky, and we don't want to run Amanda crazy with that.
Right.
Yeah. She can probably like hold the seat and do something there. We could figure that out offline, but yeah.
So we have a question that says, for counselors, is it okay if their spouse is able to come and just stay at the hotel but not attend the camp or conference?
Well, I mean, let me look into that, and let me talk to Jerica and Jane, because they're the ones dealing with it. I personally do not have a problem with it, but the problem I do see on this, there's some kind of ancillary things that can pop up. One of them is that you're talking about an adult that's going to theoretically be around kids more often, and maybe hasn't gone through the clearance, anything along those lines. And so, and I think maybe even Dr. Strader could jump in on this, because I don't know what, how I'm trying to work an angle in on it, but I don't know if I can work an angle in on it. So that's kind of,
yeah, we would have to kind of discuss that, because we want to make sure everybody who is going to participate in the camp have clearance through Zach and our team. So yeah, that's a tricky one that we can't answer right now fully, but we can certainly get back to it. The best way to do it is to make sure the kid is participating, clearance is set for those who are there, and then we have troubleshooted anything that could possibly happen, because we know everybody there is safe and have gone through the clearance.
Looks like we have another question about airfare. It is, the question is from Jennifer, and she's wondering if they can get in a few days early to visit family, if that, or if they have to stay inside the bounds of the 10th to the 13th.
I mean, if the owners, I mean, if the flight isn't exorbitantly more expensive, I can't imagine that would be a major issue. The bigger concern is that, you know, just understand that once the reservation has ended as far as the hotel, the, not that I'm trying to cite Matthew or anything, but there might not be any room at the inn. So I don't want you to, I don't want you to be without a place to stay. So just make sure if you're going to do something like that, that you are squared away as far as housing is concerned. If you have those special requests, then just let us know and we'll see what we can do.
Does anybody else have any additional questions that they would like to raise in the chat? Oh, looks like we got another one. Oh, they're just saying thank you. Oh, well, thank you guys for showing up today. Anybody else before we go? Last call for questions.
I had a real quick question. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand.
No problem.
So I just want to be clear, if our children weren't previously registered, but we would like for them to be able to attend, I just need to email that email and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
And it looks like Janice, did you have your hand raised?
I did. I emailed that email twice earlier when all of this first started. And I never got a response from anyone. And we never got an email canceling camp, even though we had already gotten our flight information. And I emailed the flight people and they didn't know anything about camp being changed as of yet. I'm just kind of wondering how responsive people will be if we say we do want to come and we're already registered for camp, or we're not going to come because, you know, for whatever reason. Am I emailing the right place if I'm emailing this camp at Amputee Coalition? And is there someone now responding to the emails?
That's what I was saying. Amanda is monitoring that email there. Okay. And so you'll have somebody there,
and was not previously.
Well, yeah, it was a bit of a challenge as that thing was put onto my lap. I was literally the week before and then I had a family emergency, and so like there was a whole mess of things that were occurring all at the same time. As Dr. Strotter can acknowledge, I was up till probably 2 a.m. many nights trying to figure this thing out and how to keep this camp going for the summer in July. And as we moved closer, I kept having nightmares of kids being stranded somewhere in this country. And
Exactly.
that is far worse than canceling. You know, that if you told me the kid doesn't have camp or the kid's stranded in Salt Lake City, I'm going to choose to cancel the camp any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And hey, our new CEO is just getting ready to hop on, it looks like. So.
Well, that was my fear, is that all that on Facebook wasn't accurate, since I never got an email and then never got a response.
And sometimes, you know, JFK had a quote. He said something along the lines of, "A lie can make its way around the world before the truth can even get its pants on." And I kind of think some of that happened as well, and that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Hey, John, how are you doing? Looks like you're still in your car.
I'm in. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I am in the car, and I just finished up with another couple meetings. So apologize for being late. I'm just running in. I got to get an admin so I can actually not be overlap meetings, because me trying to organize meetings is not a good thing. So but I don't want to stop you all. So I'll just kind of just I'll just be here. I'll go back on mute unless you need me to just share something.
We were all kind of wrapping up right now. We've kind of gone through, we went through the you know, the whole skinny of everything, I guess. And have just been answering some questions as they pop up. We were fortunate. Colin was gracious enough to give me the frequently asked questions last week, so I could study for this exam today. And so I kind of went through there, and then we're kind of addressing the onesies and twosies that are out there, and explaining to them that, you know, having the parents and when you have, you know, not that I want a flight canceled either from BWI to Palm Springs, but if you have a flight canceled between BWI and Palm Springs and it's with the parent, it's a little bit different than with some stranger from Delta. And you know, that's one of the benefits in having this. And I think also one of the things, and I know you and I've spoken about it, and we've spoken about it internally, is that I think this is an opportunity for us to also engage the parents in a new and different way and see if there are things that we can do to support you all, and maybe create some sort of understanding as to what are issues that you face or concerns that you face that maybe we haven't considered, and to make us much more responsive to the parent, just as much as it is to the child.
So Zach, it looks like we have about 3 questions left. One being, how will the hotel booking information work?
The hotel booking information, I mean, when this information comes in, I mean, you don't need to have the name exact like you do on an airfare, so that's not that big of a deal. But we're able to give that over to Jerica. Jerica's working with Jane, who is handling kind of the events management of of National Conference. So she's going to get the booking squared away and the food plan and everything else for the kids.
And then we have a question from Amy, which she asked, can another camper's parents also be a guardian for another camper if you know they will fly in from the same airport?
Well, if you're going to sign this, if the parent signs there's an affidavit assigning guardianship to that person, then yes.
All right. And it looks like the last question is there anything that parents can do in the meantime to help out with this process?
You know, I appreciate that. I do. I think if you are having questions, if there are issues, as opposed to, you know, that there's a term we used in the service about being barracks lawyers. Don't listen to the barracks lawyers that sometimes some of the times the truth isn't 100% there. If you have questions or if you have concerns, I would suggest contacting us directly. I am more than happy to tell you exactly what I'm thinking or what I'm saying. But I also know that, you know, if you all are having concerns as a group, let us know. I mean, I think like what I tried to do as we were kind of laying this thing out was saying, okay, the responsibility of Amputee Coalition occurs the moment that you cross TSA, right? The moment that you get through that security line. Now, what do we do to get you from point A to point B? And so that's where we worried about the airfare. We're worrying about the ground transportation, we're worrying about the hotel, and then making sure that the campers are being fed while they're there. So those are the big concerns right now that, you know, that we've addressed. We're having a top-notch camp director hop on board to help support this, and we're fortunate to have this, you know, some support from some other outside organizations as well. At least for right now, I don't believe that there's any like direct thing that needs to be done. However, I would fully expect in the next, say, 2 weeks to start getting some more mass emails from us. One of the bigger things that, as I was looking back when I took this over back in
June.
May, well, like late May,
Yeah,
was
like
to realize that there had been virtually no conversations that had occurred. And it was like trying to start a lawnmower that hadn't been started in 5 years. Like it was like every time I cranked, there would seem to be another problem. And so I will promise you this, that we will have at minimum bi-weekly updates, if not weekly updates. Certainly as we get closer, you're going to start getting more updates. And you'll probably get sick and tired of hearing the name Zach Hearn or Amanda Woodson. I know Amanda's already tired of hearing the name Zach Hearn, so it all works out well. But that's, yes, John. You're on mute.
Okay. All right. I never know when I'm on my phone, so I don't know. Okay. Not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna rehash anything. But once you see something come out from Amputee Coalition, what you can do to support us is to amplify that message, right? Because it's kind of like what Zach is saying. We don't want to have the rumor mill going out. We want actual factual information that we're aligning with a grant that we're supposed to do, and people don't know what's going on with that grant that we're responsible for. So we're gonna, Jerica's got the ball for the communication going forward. So when you see that, that's the time to amplify it, blow it up. I mean, really push it out there for us to get the community excited about it. And we're gonna work through all these issues. You know, Zach and I were military guys. We're doing boom, boom, boom. We're going right down the roll. And you know, I've run the Paralympic Military Sport Program camp, and you know, helping people get through airports and things like that. So there are people that are really in concern and care for the youth that are coming, and we're very excited for it. I think I don't know, did everybody see the video I sent out on that? So I mean, that amplify that's what we want to amplify, right? So we got, those are factual things. Somebody said we're not having a dance. Yes, we are. You know, we're gonna squash that and push that out. So we want all the facts moving out. And like I said, Jerica's got the ball. So just look for the communication from her. We're in lock and step. We are moving this thing forward, and we thank you so much for entrusting us with that. All right, back over to you, Zach.
Okay. And Tracy's blowing up the camp email right now, so I'm going to just go through this. So what airport are they flying into? PSP is the airport identifier, that's Palm Springs Airport. What does the camp schedule look like? We are going to publish it on the website next week. Dr. Strader and I and the camp director, and also Amanda, will be meeting together and running through it to make sure everything's squared away, it's tight. And we will we'll have that published so everybody knows, you know, by the end of June. Where does a camper go if COVID positive? That might be a situation where a person is going to have to get quarantined in a room. We will, you know, certainly I'll reach out to Jerica and ask what are we doing about, because that it's going to fall under the same protocols as somebody who's COVID positive. That's just attending conference, right? So whatever the hotel is established as the standard and the protocol there, then that's largely what we're going to have to deal with. They've been dealing with this for 2 years now, so it's probably old hat to them at this point as to how this is going to be handled. When is the camp registration deadline? That is something that we're going to have to talk about. We will put something out in the next week or so, probably with the agenda. Knowing that, you know, flights are really getting pricey and they're getting tight. We're probably going to say it'll probably be mid to late July at the latest, because you know this thing starts on August 10th. So we'll put a deadline date on there, and then we can go from there. So.
I just also want to add, Zach, to the parents that are on this call, we also have a Thrive blog that will have up-to-date information that you may not receive in an email. So please check out our Thrive blog. They're posted daily. It will have up-to-date information that you can share with your networks, as well as keep for yourself for records of information that you may not see. Because I know that people are getting lots of emails today, and sometimes it can get lost in the weeds, but that is another avenue to see information. And I can post a link to the Thrive blog in the chat as well. Thank you, Colin.
Jennifer, where do you live in Pennsylvania?
We're also a military family, and we live in Southern Chester County outside of Philly.
Gotcha.
So we're between Philly and BWI. We can easily fly out of BWI.
I live just south of York. That's why I was wondering. You saw that you were saying BWI. That's what I was asking.
Yeah. We're outside of Lancaster.
I bought my car over in that area. I know we were talking. Yeah. Otto's Mini.
Yep. Oh, yeah, right. Westchester.
Yep. Yeah, so, okay. That is all I have. If you have any questions, by all means, give us a holler. And maybe I think it would be beneficial that as we get closer, especially once the camp directors come on board, and talking to Dr. Straughter, I probably ought to ask her permission for this first, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there, and she can beat me with the wet noodle later. But maybe we'll have a call with the camp director just so everybody's all on board, and we can, just we'll be ready to go in August. But I think that way you're all comfortable with what to expect and know where we're going with everything. Okay. Well, I thank you all very much. I'm going to let Colin do whatever Colin does to end these. He's the communications guru. I barely got out of it. So.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll go ahead and end it. Thank you guys for joining. This will be recorded and we'll share it out. So for others, if you have any friends that have any questions about this, please feel free to share this link. It should be available by the end of the week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.